Homeschool Mom, it is October 14th, which means we have roughly 79 days left until the end of the year. If your homeschool started strong in August, but somewhere along the line between field trips and fractions, you have started to drift, or maybe you didn't start strong at all, maybe you've been drifting this whole time, then this video is your reset. We are done coasting. We are locking in for the rest of the year with clear standards and zero chaos. Now, if you want a complete framework that ties all of this together, then I would invite you to check out my free masterclass. The link is in the description below. It's all of the things that I wish I had known to build a really strong framework for myself when I started homeschooling 18 years ago. But first, let's talk about why you keep losing momentum and how we can fix that for good. Okay, number one, the homeschool dissonance loop. This is the loop that keeps you stuck. Here is what happens to just about every homeschool mom. And if this sounds familiar to you, it's probably because you have either been in this loop before or you are stuck in the middle of it right now. It is the invisible trap that steals your consistency. And as I've already discussed in this video right here, consistency really is the key to successful homeschooling. It's what makes your homeschool elite. So we have to stop that. So the first thing that comes along is that want stage. You want to be a homeschool mom who has it all together. You want to give your child a strong foundational education that is going to carry them through life. You feel inspired. You know what the homeschool morning of your dreams looks like. Calm mornings, study lessons, real learning. And you really mean it with all of your heart. But then comes the dabble phase. We've all been in the dabble phase. You start reorganizing, you start redoing those checklists. Maybe you're even considering changing curriculum. You are spending all of your time prepping, but none of your time really executing on the task that is in front of you. It feels productive, but mom, let me tell you what you're doing here. You're really just stretching. You're stretching and stretching and stretching like you're going to run the race, but you never step up and you never start running. And then life happens. It always does. Someone starts feeling sick. The baby is teething. It's that time of the month. You overslept, or you just can't find the math book. And that is what I like to call the miss a day phase. But then the guilt hits. You start thinking to yourself, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Maybe I just don't have enough discipline for this. Or even worse, maybe homeschooling doesn't have to be that hard. You're thinking, I'm behind again. I just can't keep up. Maybe something's wrong with me. And that is what I like to call the guilt phase. And instead of simply steadying the ship, you swing to the opposite side of the pendulum and you just decide to burn the whole thing down and rebuild on top of the ashes. New schedule, new system, new curriculum. You might even trade in the kids if you could. And this is what I call the new plan phase. And then I bet you can guess what happens. You repeat the whole cycle over and over again. Some of you are completing this cycle multiple times per year. It's exhausting and it gets you nowhere. So this is what the cycle looks like on repeat. Want leads to dabbling, leads to miss a day, leads to guilt, leads to new plan, and then repeat over and over again. This, moms, is what is called emotional homeschooling. It is reactive behavior and it gets you absolutely nowhere. And worst of all, it sets a terrible example for your children on how not to accomplish anything. You are leading from feelings instead of standards. But the good news is that all ends today. We are going to install rails so that even if and when your emotions start to wobble, your homeschool will not. Your homeschool will stay on track. So let's talk for a little bit about standards over emotions. Emotions are a liability, but your standards create the rails. Now, before my one or two commenters comment that not all emotions are bad emotions. Mom, seriously, we all know that. We are all adult women here, and we all know the difference between good emotions and bad emotions. So let's just put that argument to rest. We are obviously talking about the bad emotions here. And before you comment that all emotions are good emotions, no, they are not. They absolutely are not. Okay, so here are your 3 rails for the rest of this year. Rail number 1, we start on time. 8 a.m., opening block, no exceptions. Now, let me just say really quickly, if you want to start earlier than 8 a.m., be my guest. But really, let's get started by 8 a.m. at the very latest. You will be amazed at how much more you get done when you start at 8. Rail number 2, mom checks and kids correct the work the same day. I do not want any more stacks of ungraded, uncorrected math papers haunting you at 9 p.m. at night. Rail number 3, no new curriculum choices until January or later. You cannot fix inconsistency with novelty. Let me repeat that statement. You cannot fix your own inconsistency with novelty, meaning bringing in new curriculum. New curriculum is not going to save you. You have to change your habits. These 3 anchors that I just mentioned are going to anchor all of the other choices that we make. So now let's talk about my 80-day plan. We are going to divide the rest of this year into 3 phases. And mom, if you watch this video later than October the 14th, do not panic. You can just shorten some of the phases. It's not a big deal. Please jump in wherever you are, whatever time of the year you are using this plan, because if you are watching this, you are here for a reason and you need it. So please don't feel encumbered by any specific dates or any specific days of the year. So phase 1 of this plan, we're going to take 1 week to really stabilize your homeschool, because if you are going like this, you need to stabilize. You're going to reset your environment and your expectations. Phase 2, this is the longest phase of all of the phases. You are going to execute 9 weeks of the plan consistently. I want a consistent daily rhythm out of you. Now, let me just tell you what this is and what this isn't. This means that you are checking off those boxes. It does not mean necessarily that you are completing certain lessons in your curriculum. So if you have a child that needs to spend some extra time going over a math concept or a grammar concept, or it is taking them longer to learn their spelling words, you take that time, but you are spending time working on that with your child on a daily basis. Do you see the difference there? We're not trying to rush our children through learning. What we are trying to do is making sure that we are touching it every single day. That consistency is what is going to build the familiarity that your child needs to master that material. And then we're going to have phase 3, which is going to be 2 weeks to basically audit what you have been doing, see if anything needs to be switched around. Maybe you need to spend a little bit more time on some subjects and a little bit less time on other subjects. Maybe you need to move some subjects to the morning and some subjects to the afternoon. You're also going to be auditing any gaps that you may have noticed that your child has. If you are touching on these subjects on a daily basis, you are going to start to notice where they need some more work and where they have accomplished amazing, great things. And then finally, you're going to celebrate, because if you are consistent for these 9 weeks, your children are going to have accomplished so much. And you need to make sure that you recognize that and that you celebrate that, because I mean, what amazing work. And make sure to celebrate for yourself, mom, too, because 9 weeks of consistency in homeschool is no small accomplishment. You did a great job too. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more in depth about phase one, that stabilization phase. What is this going to look like? So stabilization, what we're really trying to do here is make sure that when it is time to start school at 8 a.m., you actually get to start school at 8 a.m. No one is looking for their pencils. No one is looking for their math book. Everything is in its place. I have one basket per child and all of their books live there, their pencil lives there, but I want that math book and that math notebook out on the table with the pencil right there so that the child can just get to work. So this is the kind of organization that you're looking at the night before to really stabilize and make sure that your child cannot say, I don't have a pencil, because you know that happens. That happens so frequently if you are not being proactive. Go ahead and have the timers ready. Go ahead and have those math fact sheets ready. If your child needs to take any tests or quizzes that week, make sure that you already have those printed out so that you are not scrambling. You do not want to be the holdup in your child's homeschool. You got to raise the level of organization a little bit. And I am saying this as a chronically disorganized homeschool mom. Organization is one of the hardest parts for me, but you just got to make your checklist, mom. And then you got to check off those boxes, print the things that need to be printed, make sure that you are not the dependency holding everyone up. And I know that I need to go ahead and say this too, because this is the thing that sucks us in more than anything else. You need to make sure that your phone is on a charger in a different room than the homeschool room so that you and your attention are not pulled away from where they actually need to be. So now let's talk a little bit about setting your schedule anchors. So in our house, 8 a.m., that's start time, that's breakfast. We're doing Christian studies. That is the way that we start our day every day. We do our math in the morning. We do our composition in the morning. We do our Latin in the morning. These are the most important subjects, and they're also the hardest subjects. So I like to get those out of the way first. Then at noon every day, we have lunch. For an hour, they have a lunch. They are with their dad. Their dad is teaching them science. And then at 1 o'clock, we always have our quiet reading time. We do 1 hour of quiet reading time every day. And that kind of is a transition period from, lunch and free time and science, fun stuff, back into the harder work. And so then from there, we finish up, we go over math corrections. I do read alouds at that point. I have my kids reading to me that still need that oral work with their reading. And we're just basically dotting I's and crossing T's for the rest of the day until everything is finished up. But having that rhythm and flow to your day is super important. So write it down. Do not just drift from one subject to the next. You need to have your checklist in front of you, know what you want to accomplish, and know when you want to accomplish it. Now, of course, if we don't finish composition in the morning, of course, we're going to finish it in the afternoon, but you need to have a goal that you are shooting for because time is finite. You need to treat it like that. It's a huge resource. And if you steward that resource well, then you are going to get much more out of your 24 hours than the homeschool mom who is just, floating along basically. So you really need to steward those hours and make them work for you. So some other things that I do to stabilize our day is I've actually switched laundry folding to the morning. I wake up now at 5:30 in the morning and I have a list of things that I want to accomplish, and folding laundry is one of those things. So I fold my laundry in the morning and I start a load immediately. In my house, I have 1 million people, so you do not need to do as much laundry as I do. You probably could not do as much laundry as I do, but I'm running about 3 loads a day, sometimes 4. So I get that first load started early in the morning. If I make sure that I get those loads through, the house keeps running nicely. If I know what I'm making for dinner by 10 a.m. in the morning, then the dinner time, it's just an automatic choice. Now, I do try to make my menus over the weekend, but sometimes that doesn't happen. So when that doesn't happen, if I can at least know by 10 a.m., I'm still in a good spot. We have different tidying up times throughout the day that the kids know about. They also know when they're supposed to be doing their dishes. So we have a chore rhythm for our day in the same way that we have a homeschool rhythm for our day. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about that phase 2 execution phase and what that's really going to look like practically speaking. Okay, so some of those things that are really important in my house, we always, like I said, start our day with our Christian studies and our memorization. So I have my kids memorizing the children's catechism based off of the Westminster Confession. That's really important in our home. You should have your children memorizing something. If they don't have the books of the Bible memorized, that is a fantastic place to start. After they do that, have them start memorizing scripture. Christmas is coming up. You could have them memorize Luke 2. There are all sorts of different things that you can have your children memorize, and you should be having them memorize things from the Bible. That is part of why we homeschool, so that we can give our children a Christian education. But if you are not spending time on that every day, it is not a Christian education. So let's put first things first here. Now, of course, math is extraordinarily important. Get that done every single day. Get that math checked every single day. I check math during our quiet reading time, and then right after that, the children can make their corrections. This is very important to the flow of the day. After they make corrections, I teach the new lesson, and then the cycle just repeats itself day after day. You need to make sure that your children are reading every single day. If you want them to become readers, you have to make them read. This is really important. So that's, why we do an hour of quiet reading every day. They have different books that they're supposed to be reading for their school assignments. If they finish that, and they usually are finished with their school reading by Thursday or Friday, they have a whole shelf of the bookcase where they can pick another book. I have one child reading through pages of history put out by Veritas Press. It's kind of like Story of the World, but more Christian. They have volume 1 and volume 2 of that. There's tons of different things that you can give your children to read, but they need to be reading. They need to be developing that reading habit daily. I have checklists for each child, and on that checklist is all of the different things that they have to get done each day. It makes it so much easier to make sure that we are staying on track, that I'm not missing something, that no one is falling through the cracks or slipping under the radar. If you have enough kids, you probably have that one kid that is just really good at staying right underneath the radar with behavior, with schoolwork. Like they do just enough, or they do just a little bit of a bad behavior to where they don't ever actually get called out for it. Checklists eliminate that under the radar problem that you have if you have enough kids. I have 2 or 3 of these under the radar kids. So I have to be really careful to make sure I'm looking, and making sure that we're checking off all of those boxes. Now, checking off boxes has gotten a really bad rap over the years for some reason in the homeschool mom community. Check off the boxes. This keeps you on track. There is nothing wrong with checking off boxes. Now, of course, don't become a checkbox tyrant. You don't have to get your attitude involved. You have to, this is another reason why you have to leave your emotions at the door. If a child has 3 check boxes left at the end of the day, then mom, you are the one who has not been diligent in making sure that their child is doing their studies. So why are you getting mad at them? They are doing what children do. Children, if left to themselves, are not going to choose to be diligent with their schoolwork. Now, of course, there are a few children in each family who are more diligent with schoolwork, and praise the Lord for that. Otherwise, we might actually lose our minds. But moms, we all have these kids who don't want to do their schoolwork. That doesn't mean that they don't do their schoolwork. It means that mom works harder to make sure they're doing their schoolwork. So mom, make your job easier. Make checklists for your kids. This doesn't have to be hard at all. Actually, I should go ahead and admit here, my husband helps me with my checklist because I'm really bad at Excel. I love a great spreadsheet, but I'm terrible at making them. So my husband actually helps me make these. But you don't have to be fancy here. I just like to have a box. But basically all that it is all of the tasks for each child that I want them completing each day with a rough time estimate. So, I have everything on there. I have, extra math for math facts. I have flashcards because we do extra math and we do flashcards, and I'll put on there 10 minutes. We have Latin flashcards, Latin recitations, Latin work, composition, reading to mom for 10 minutes, 1 hour of like all of the things. And this makes it easier than using the curriculum manual. I love the curriculum manual so that I know what lessons are supposed to be done. But, sometimes the curriculum manual moves faster than my child is capable of moving. So when that happens, I don't get any of that angst to keep pushing the child to move faster when they obviously need more time. But this is where I can also keep track of it when I have these separate checklists. Does that make sense? Okay, so now let's talk about the finish strong phase, phase 3. I'm really big on auditing because I want to know what is working and what needs more work. So I do a 15-minute audit on each child. Now, this gives me time to check in with what their grades are for their online courses for my older kids, but this also gives me time to really evaluate if I need to change something on my checklist. So if I have a child that is really struggling with his spelling words, then I need to give him some extra time on his checklist to study those spelling words. Maybe he needs to do an additional writing each spelling word out 3 times. Maybe I need to do some additional teaching for him. But doing that 15-minute audit with each child really helps you to keep the pulse of what is happening with that child, where they need more help and where they need less. Because isn't it wonderful when they need a little bit less help because things are starting to click for them? That is only going to happen when you're consistent, by the way. So, and that is one of the biggest rewards of consistency, is when you actually get to see your child flourishing. So every Friday, I also like to hold a 90-minute gap clinic, which means if I've noticed some gaps in any of the kids, I can spend some focused time working with that kid, with that child on the areas that he or she needs some additional help with. Now, we don't always need this, but some weeks we really do. And it's important that you have the margin in your schedule to have this. This is kind of like when a child is going to college, the professor will have office hours. That's kind of how I like to think of this. So another thing that's really important in solidifying this progress is making sure to celebrate those wins, like I talked about. So one of the best ways to do this is to basically call out the children during dinner time in front of dad, at the end of the week. So explain, who got great grades on different tests, explain who broke through and is finally understanding long division. If somebody masters a math fact family, then, make sure to praise them for that. Also praise for good attitudes. If Susie all of a sudden is doing her work so much more diligently, call that out and praise it. You want to make sure that you are praising your children's character as much as you are praising their academics. Okay, so I want you to lock in your own rules and your own priorities for this next 80 days, because my priorities might be different from your priorities. You might need to start a little bit smaller. Maybe you've been, in this state of chaos for the last year, and so you need to start with smaller habits. That's totally fine. But I want you to go ahead and pick 3 of those lock-in rules for the next 80 days. So some of the things that you can choose is starting on time, starting at 8 a.m. every day. Another one you could choose is a 5-day school week. And, maybe you've just been doing 2 or 3 days. You've been, taking days off multiple times per week. So maybe a 5-day school week is what you need to lock in over. Maybe you need to lock in over those same day corrections. Maybe you need to lock in with math facts. Maybe your children are understanding math concepts, but they're slow because they don't have their math facts memorized. So I start having my children memorize math facts in kindergarten with the addition math facts, and then, on to subtraction and all of that. So if you have a child that is kindergarten and up, start working with those flashcards. Even just 5 minutes a day, you will be amazed at how quickly they start to pick those up. So finally, Mom, let's talk about your own protocol, because you are the one leading this whole charge. So you have to make sure that you are also giving yourself the fuel and the energy that you need in order to carry out this mission, because it is a big one. So you need to make sure that you are getting plenty of sleep. There is so much research out there showing that the less sleep you get, the more your mental health suffers. And if you are going to do this and do this well, you need to be sharp. So, make sure that you are getting 7 or 8 hours of sleep every night. It's super important. There are lots of different hacks that you can use if you're having trouble sleeping, if you have a baby that is getting up in the middle of the night. That really can't be avoided for a certain amount of time, but once your baby is old enough, get the baby sleeping through the night. Because here's the thing, your baby needs sleep too. Okay. So I'm not going to go into how to do that. There are plenty of other people who have done that before. But set a goal and start working towards that goal, because you both need your sleep. Make sure that you are getting movement. As a homeschool mom, if I am not being intentional about movement, I am amazed at how few steps that I get every day, because a lot of the mom's role is either sitting or standing in one place. So, when I'm folding laundry, I'm standing in one place. When I'm cooking, I'm standing in one place. When I'm doing school with the kids, I'm sitting in one place. So you have to be intentional about getting movement. And it's even better if you can do that outside. That's one of the reasons why I get up early, is so that I can have between 30 and 45 minutes to walk outside in the morning. It's great. It gives me a really strong start to my day. Make sure that you are not spending too much time scrolling on your phone. We all know that this is not the best way to spend any amount of time, and so you need to get more disciplined about that. Make sure that you are doing that. Also, mom, make sure that you are drinking plenty of water. Make sure you're getting your vegetables and your fruit, as well as your children. And I try really hard to get in 2 micro wins before 9 a.m. For me, those micro wins include getting that nice long walk in the morning and making sure to get the days prior laundry folded. To me, if I get those 2 things done, I feel like $1,000,000, and I've already accomplished so much. Folding 3 to 4 loads of laundry in the morning is no small task, but it gets done every single day, and that makes me feel like I am on top of things. And then I get that walk in and I feel like I'm on top of that. And so it just really sets me up for a great day. Okay, this is longer than I meant for it to be, so I'm just going to go ahead and wrap this up now. Consistency wins the day, mom, and let's go ahead and use the rest of this year to really lock in those habits so that you can start the next year even stronger than you did this one. So don't forget to check out my free masterclass if you haven't had a chance yet. This really is going to go even further to set you up, set that framework up that every mom really needs in a homeschool to be successful. So the link for that is in the description below. I'll see you in the next video.